Morning, guys. Let's have a look at the results of the second Let's All Process the Same Raw File Challenge. Now, the idea is simple. A lot of you played along for the first time. Welcome. Awesome to have you on board. But don't worry too much about this. This is a fun thing. Am I right? Am I wrong? There is no such thing. It's just a fun exercise to learn, to play around, and to see how other people will do the same thing. Too often in this industry, wildlife photography, people work in a vacuum. It's my secret. I can't do this. It's all bullshit. Let's share. Let's get it out there. So if you're new, this is what it's about. It's simply that. Learn together, share together, and just have fun, because that's what it should be about. Anyway, that's kind of my Thursday morning rant. Let's get that out the way. So what are we doing? This is the image I asked you to process this week. Straight up leopard portrait. And the goal was to make it a monochrome or a black and white image without any kind of funny plugins. Straight up Lightroom, straight up Photoshop, or a combination I see some of you have used. So that's pretty cool. We'll talk more after this. Let's have a look at, here we go, into Lightroom. This is some of the images that you guys sent through. Obviously mine, the original raw file up front, and then if we look through it, now the same like we did the other time, if you look through these, there are some of them that will pull your eye immediately for whatever reason. So if I just fill the screen with it, we've got one at the bottom there as well. So if we look at all of those, some of them will pull your eye. Up here, which one is this? Sean's image, dark background, pulls me in. Who's this? Naomi, kind of a very heavy sepia tint, pulls me in. The bright one pulls me in. The contrast on that one, who's this? Les, pulls me in. Over here, Carl, got a very strong kind of vignette feel about this one, pulls me in. Blue tone. So there's different things that will pull people into an image. And again, like I said previously, if you're judging your own images, put them in a grid like this, and humor me here, close your eyes, open, and you'll find your eyes are drawn to certain things. If an image can stand up as a thumbnail, chances are you've got something to play with. So let's just quickly flash through one of these. Again, like last time, name is in the corner here of whoever sent this through. Let's have a look and see how different some of these really are. Yeah? So you see, composition, even cropping, people had very different ideas on the crop. Chop off the middle, a lot of squares, interesting. Did you guys check out the video I did yesterday with an Instagram kind of flavor? Go and check out what makes an image work on Instagram while we're talking through here. Interesting tight crop there. Josh, I'm digging this long crop, the kind of long version, it's quite lekker. Jen, Heinrich, Francisco. I like seeing a lot of the names coming up again and again. D, great to have you playing along. We're on Instagram, friends, chatting a lot, seeing you in the office. Nice to have you in. Charmaine, Coral, Brennan, Barry, Anand. So, great combination of images. Thank you so much. I'll try that again. Thank you so much for taking the time. Now, before we get stuck in, let's just have a chat about this. A lot of people seem to be asking questions as to what should I do and how far should I go. You decide. When we're looking at natural looking images, it is your call as the photographer as to what natural is. I know it blurs the lines, but I want to produce normal images. I want to produce images that when I show to someone, it makes them see and feel what it was like to be there at the time. Too heavy saturation blows it out the water. Too sharp, not enough contrast. All of those things, you want to try and get as close to possible as a real life image as possible. Now, with monochrome, and this is something we're going to chat about now as I work through my version here, is the moment you remove color, you've changed the content and the context of that image. You now have full control of what you want to show. Call it fine art, call it what you will, but the moment you strip color, you're showing something new. Now, I'm still of the opinion that with these kind of images, with black and white, I don't want someone to look at an image that I've done and say, oh, I see, you've painted the eye. You've sharpened selectively here. You've put a vignette around. Whatever the case is. Obviously, color tones and casts, that's individual preference. I might not like a purple color cast, but you do. That's cool. But from a processing, from the subtle nature thereof, of processing an image, putting it out there, I don't want to say, oh, I can see you put a vignette on here. There are ways in which, if you understand and this is a recurring theme, if you understand the program that you are using, you can do these things in a subtle way so that the image is the focus, not your processing. You don't want someone to be able to pinpoint and say, oh, you did this, 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 and that. Okay, just a thought. So, one more look at all of those. Those are the ones we got, and we'll throw this together again now. Let's have a crack at this one. So, haven't looked at this yet. Let's see. So, one of the things here, this piece of bright grass in the bottom. So, a piece of blade of grass that was in the foreground caught the light, and it came a light in the image, blurred out with a small depth of field. A lot of you struggle. Do I clone it out? Do I crop it out? Whatever the case is. I'm going to leave it there for now, and let's play with it as it goes. So, monochrome, go. I would always try and do my blacks and whites first, get a usable image. And then what I've been doing the last while is go on the contrast quite heavy because it gives me more texture. Clarity gives me edge contrast, which I can translate into texture later on. Also, just a little bit of brightness there. Remember, this might look quite bad now, but I'm going for monochrome, and this is how I prep my monochrome stuff. Even color, because when I work my color sliders, I seem to get more out of it. So that for me would be a start, just to get it going. And then I go into black and white, B&W. Now remember, I prefer to do it this way in that I can see if I want to do orange, I use the orange slider, blue, greens. So the first thing is my cat. The cat is oranges and yellows. So orange slider here, you would do that. Not too much, actually more the background there, yeah? So let's just darken. Watch what happens to my piece of thing, this in the foreground. Little less there gives me less of it, yeah? So to a manageable area over there. Yellow will give me even, so I can maybe blend that in a bit there. And then this area on the side here, that's blues, yeah? So the blues should give me a bit darker area in there. I don't want to go too heavy. Right, so that's given me my black and white. Now, this is as far as I would go in my sliders. I would head back to basic, and now I can fine-tune the product that I have. Let me remove that view. I can now fine-tune the product. Remember, black and white for me is I've stripped out the color. I want to give you my interpretation of the scene. Not real life. I've stripped the color. This is my version thereof. So if I go there, we can play with contrast a bit, see what happens, make it more dramatic. You see, I don't want to go too heavy. The moment I do this, blow it out, people tend to do this often. Check on Facebook. Love this stuff. Is you start losing detail in the blacks and the white, and it looks harsh. So keep it subtle. I might want to just lift. The area I'm looking at now is the nose area here. If I lift my shadows a bit, it just gives me that little bit of detail and texture. Remember, monochrome, huge on detail and texture. So we've gone now from there to there. Okay, it's already working. Now, once I'm happy with this, I'd go into my brushes. This is the stuff we like. So with flow and density, check my previous videos on flow and density. You have to use these. They work. I'm going to play with exposure down, shadows. Now, people ask how much. I go by feel here, and I go quite aggressive on the sliders because of flow and density, fading that adjustment in. So I'm going to drop my exposure, drop my shadows, the dark areas, and I'm going to soften the clarity a bit on the background. So you'll also notice I do not use auto mask. I don't like auto mask at all. It's not always as effective. So I use a feather, and I'm very happy for the feather to go over the lines of my cat because it's a soft adjustment and I don't get that horrible halo. Pull this in a bit, that sometimes happens. So because I'm working on flow and density, I can paint the adjustments in. You also notice I don't use the mask, this overlay mask at the bottom. I'd rather blend and see how my adjustment fades in. So turn my brush on and off so far. So that's my brush. So I'm trying to focus my eye into my cat. Now, it's very subtle. Some of you didn't have it this subtle. Watch this halo around the cat. It's a little bit of a bright area. You see that? Yeah. Now, I would do, for that, I would create a new brush, and I would just drop the exposure a bit, and just work the edge. I don't mind the little bit of a halo, but if I can soften it up a touch, again, I'm not worried about the brush on my cat because, I'll show you now, I'm just trying to get rid of a little bit of this halo effect around him, her. Who was this? I think it was her. Okay, better. So I'm liking the adjustment more. Create a new brush, and now I'm going to do a brush. I've called it, you can create custom presets here. I've got a Gerry Selective Sharpen, which is a little bit of exposure bump, a little bit of shadow bump, clarity up, and a bit of sharpness, again with a low flow and density, and I put that on my cat's face itself, a little bit of it there. All right, let's see, overall, that's where we're getting to. So far, so good. Now, one more brush I'm going to do on here is darker and shadows, is I'm going to pull this corner in a bit. Okay, too heavy, release it a bit. Release it a bit. Okay, I'm liking that so far. The face does seem a little bit too heavy for me, so what that's going to be is I'm going to just pull my highlights down a little bit here, just to make it a little bit more manageable. Now watch, this thing that bothered us in the beginning here, it doesn't bother me because my total attention is going onto this cat's face. It's dark around the outside, I'll get pulled straight into the face, which is cool. Let's crop this just because we can. Let's try a 16:9 on this. Let's come in a bit, tighten in, put him there. Maybe open it a touch. Okay, now I'm thinking the clarity is too heavy. I can back that up a touch. And I think I'm quite happy there. So that's a quick one. I like where I've gone with that. It's not too bad. Okay, let's try one more thing. Sorry, I'm going to change one more thing. If I go find my brushes, this one, which is the background, let me just see what happens if I duplicate that one. It becomes quite heavy, but now I've got two brushes on top of each other, so I can lighten one up a little bit. And so my brush gave me all of that. So the combination of my brushes did that, which I'm quite happy for. Let's go back home. So G for grid gives me all of those. So there's the one I just did in the front. If I look at the images now off the bat, boom. Obviously, I like mine because I did it. It was a very quick process. I do prefer Nick Silver effects. I love using that thing in combination with Lightroom's brushes. But again, guys, there's no right or wrong here. This is the cool thing. But let's have a check. So you can see how each of those make you look at the image slightly different. The darkness influences the mood. Strong vignette here, Rob. So again, this is, if that's what you want to do from a print point of view, that's cool, but I can see you put a vignette on here. If you don't want that, instead of putting the circular thing on, brush it in different levels so it looks more non-circular, if you will. But again, not wrong. If you want to print it like that, go for the Hallmark vibe, that's cool. Okay, man, nice process here. Give me a bit of a darker thing in the back, could punch it even more. Okay, so that is a great collection of monochrome images all around. There you go. So those are some thoughts. I'm going to leave you with mine on there. Those are the thoughts, guys, on monochrome. It is not rocket science. You need to look at something and say, right, what do I want to do? Make it black and white. Done. Now what do I want to do? I want to make the background darker. Do that. I want to make the cat a little bit brighter and sharper. Do that. I don't like the corner. I want to crop it. Do that. The entire workflow of digital photography and Lightroom or Photoshop can be done on a what now basis. What do I want to do? I want to darken the background. Do it. And just keep following the process until you sit back and think, damn, that's amazing. Then you've reached the place where your image is speaking to you and hopefully to other people out there. Great exercise. Thank you so much. That was awesome. That's 2 of these Lightroom processing exercises for now. I'm leaving the office in a couple of hours. I'll be out of the office for about a month. We won't be doing any of these unless I find some time in Namara or Madikwe or wherever I am to play with it. So watch the Facebook page and watch my Instagram feed. Maybe something pops up. Also, as you know, I do a lot of live updates and stuff from the field. So Instagram's where most of it's going, then Twitter, and then Facebook, kind of in that order. I just like the mobility of those platforms. So keep the questions coming. Watch for the next one. We're going to do this again in some time, but it's a great, great exercise. Questions, fire them through. End of this video, you'll have all the details, and then we can take it from there. Think that's it? My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. I'll see you guys in about a month.